Welcome to episode 52 of the Hodgepodge podcast. I'm your host, Doug.
And I'm Dirty A. As the name suggests, we're going to talk about a hodgepodge of topics from movies, music, TV, and other pop culture events.
And on this episode, we'll be talking about a ton of movies, including Brad Pitt's Fury, Robert Downey Jr.'s The Judge, and Jeremy Renner's Kill the Messenger. You can reach us at the hodgepodgepodcast@gmail.com or over on our website, thehodgepodgepodcast.com, or head on over to iTunes and YouTube and subscribe. And it's funny that I mentioned YouTube because we really haven't posted anything there in a while. But oh well. Oh well. Yeah, this is kind of a catch-up episode because we had a erratic recording schedule, I guess you'd say, over the last few weeks.
Our lives are so hectic.
I know. We're so busy. We're so busy with our social calendars. And so this is kind of a catch-up week. Big news in the land of superhero movie news. I actually kind of wish Matt was here right now to talk about this because DC and Warner Brothers released a whole they
calendar.
Yeah, they cashed in on that rumor from a couple months ago about like all these dates that they were going to pick out, and they cashed in on it and they announced everything.
They did what a few months ago what Marvel did.
Yeah,
and they just announced a slate of movies for the next 5+ years, 8+ years even.
Yeah.
Some years have lighter schedules.
Yeah.
Some have upwards of 3 movies.
And a lot of these are already cast and they're ready to go. I mean, you've got they announced 2 Justice League movies.
Leagues.
They announced a Wonder Woman movie, which will be in 2017, I think they said. Aquaman with Jason Momoa. Did they announce a Cyborg movie? I can't remember.
They did.
So a Cyborg movie.
That's going to be at the tail end,
right.
Obviously.
They also announced a Flash movie starring Ezra Miller from Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Sorry, guy from the TV show.
Yeah, I know. It's a shame because that TV show's really good. I really like it.
But it's obvious they're keeping that completely separate because they're doing the same thing with Arrow.
Yeah.
It's dumb because you've got these 2 cannons running side by side.
Right.
It's going to confuse people. But
not to mention Gotham, which is, whatever. Yeah, and then they also announced there will be a solo Batman movie at some point, and that's still another, finally, actual, honest-to-God sequel to Man of Steel.
Right.
Because this Batman Superman is not really the sequel to Man of Steel. It's really the prequel to Justice League, essentially. So it's going to be really interesting.
Which will introduce some of these new to the screen characters like Wonder Woman, Aquaman.
Right. And then Marvel, not to be outdone, they had their big news, which is that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be in Captain America 3. And the speculation is that is going to be the Civil War storyline from the comic books. Personally, as a comic book fan, I feel
so they go back in time and
fight
for slavery?
Yes, they fight for slavery, yes. I bet you didn't know that Captain America was a huge racist.
All I see is like Robert Downey Jr. in his outfit, like penning a letter to Annabelle Lee.
But no, Civil War was I think it was like 2007 or something like that. It was a major comic book story where there's an incident where some superpowered people cause this accident where like a school's blown up basically or something like that. So the government goes, oh, we need to register all superheroes, all superpowered beings. This actually goes all the way back to X-Men, in the movie they had the registration with their mutants, so they just
X-Men, Watchmen. I mean, it's all kind of been done before. I'm not saying it's a bad storyline, but it's not necessarily new.
So now instead of it just being mutants, Marvel carried it over to all superpowered beings. Captain America is against it, and Iron Man is for it. Heroes line up on each side, and then there's a civil war.
Which is kind of an odd dynamic.
Yeah,
because I mean, I understand both sides, but at the same time, it's like Captain America is actually part of the military. He was even before.
But the thing with Captain America is that
freedom.
he's all about freedom.
I get it, but it's just it's kind of weird, because Robert Downey Jr. he's like the anarchist of the group. He's the one that would go against the government. So it's kind of odd.
So, but just like Age of Ultron, which will be Avengers 2, is not going to tie into the comic book story Age of Ultron at all, except the fact that Ultron's in it. This may not be a complete thing, because honestly, one of the biggest players in Civil War is Spider-Man. and he obviously can't be in this movie because Sony owns Spider-Man.
Still think they're working on it.
They're talking about it, but I don't know how soon that's going to be.
It's not soon enough for them to create it as part of the story.
Right.
Yeah.
And clearly, Marvel also doesn't give a fuck about Fantastic Four or X-Men. They are canceling Fantastic Four, the comic book.
Yeah.
They're citing low sales. No. But there is a story out there that the head of Marvel, like the CEO of Marvel, is like this crazy... petty man, and
kill off the comic book, kill off the movies.
Yeah, because that'll work.
Yeah, for the competing
and
studio.
And none other than Chris Claremont himself, who was a longtime writer of X-Men, said that he's been given an edict not to create any new characters for X-Men, so they can't be used in the movies, which is stupid.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because you can only write about Magneto so many times before
it's Wolverine. I said it.
Wolverine is dead. And that happened this past week too. They killed off Wolverine, which now people are like, maybe that's why they did it. My theory is that there will be a new character called Phil Jones who looks exactly like Wolverine and will be played by Hugh Jackman in the Marvel Universe movies.
Instead of Bub, he says like, "Hey, dude."
Yeah, hey, dude. Are you from Canada? No, I'm from.
Hey, pal.
I'm from Greenland. Yes, that's like.
Yeah.
So, big things happening in like comic book, geek movies, stuff like that. And Star Wars rumors just keep on plugging along. But I just ignore those. I'm just like, whatever. Just give me the fucking movie. I
try to ignore them, but man, it's difficult. Yeah. They're everywhere.
And,
how much did Robert Downey Jr. get paid for his what will likely be 10 minutes of screen time in Cap 3 or whatever?
Oh, no. They said he's going to be like a major character in Cap 3.
He'll be... It's not going to be like starting off.
Right,
so no. It'll actually be...
I think it's supposed to tie into Avengers.
Tie well into
I think it's tied to Avengers, too.
Right.
So we'll see what happens with that. That's interesting. But I just realized this the other day, too, when I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool that they're going to do that. Personally, I think it's a little early for them to do that.
Yeah, it seems like there's that's a very new storyline to be cutting into.
Well, it's not just that.
Given that you haven't even introduced all the characters yet.
Right.
But this is probably
a
way
to... Right.
Yeah.
But then I thought about it, and I was just like, oh, I see why they did this, because on the other side, you've got Batman versus Superman, so who are the two most popular Marvel cinematic heroes? Captain America and Iron Man. Now they're going to fight. Yeah. So that's why it makes sense that they're doing that. I'm sure the Russos...
I personally hope that they call it Cap v. Iron Man.
Yeah, me too. The Russos are going to direct it, and I'm sure they're kind of pissed a little bit because I think they had their own plans for this movie, and now it's kind of going off the rails. But I guess their consolation prize is the rumor is they're going to be directing Avengers 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to, like, hey, let's just see how much money the movie makes.
And then we'll decide. But this is a freight train.
I know,
This is a freight train that not anytime soon, but inevitably will derail.
Right, yeah.
The public will get tired of this at some point.
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It always happens.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to run out of steam. It's going to be a long time before it does.
Yeah, I know.
But there's going to be one of these movies where it just does just horrible, and then we have to rethink everything.
Forbish Man from Marvel.
So
So that's what's going on
news.
in geek news, geek movie news. Also, the U2 album was finally just released on a physical release. And I got that, and it had some bonus tracks on it. So they're actually pretty good.
You're so old school.
I know I am old school, but the bonus tracks are good. So it'll be interesting to see this week how it really does on like the Billboard chart, to see how it charts since they released it early to iTunes and everything like that. Yeah, what else is going on?
I think that's it from
that's it. I guess.
From really an eventful standpoint of news. So I guess let's get into the reviews.
Yeah.
Kick it off with Fury.
Yeah, Fury. Fury is the latest direction.
Mr. Ayer.
Yeah, David Ayer, who wrote and directed End of Watch. He wrote Training Day. He also wrote and directed Harsh Times. I think that's the title. I never saw it.
He's good. He's good.
Yeah, he's good. He's very good. Fury is set in World War II. It's in the waning days of World War II. And it follows a tank crew on a tank called Fury, and they are led by War Daddy Collier, who's Brad Pitt, and they have a tight crew, and they just lost one of their guys, their gunner, so the army gives them
enter the new recruit.
Enter Logan Lerman, who plays Norman Ellison. I want to call him Norman Bates. But hello, mother. Don't call me mother. Just getting that gun. Who, of course, has never seen the inside of a tank in his life. He's a typist, and they put him in this situation.
Fresh eyes to war.
Right. Yeah. And the rest of the crew is played by Michael Pena, who also appeared in End of Watch, David Ayer's End of Watch. He plays Gordo, who's the driver. You've got Shia LaBeouf, who plays
Bible.
Yeah, Bible.
That's his nickname.
Yeah, Boyd. He's the main gunner, the turret gunner, and he is very religious, obviously, because his name is Bible. Because this movie doesn't really do subtlety very well. And then you've got Kunas, played by John Bernthal, who plays
Shane.
Yeah, Shane.
Shane fame from Walking Dead.
Walking Dead, and pretty much he's playing Shane in this movie.
Pretty much. He's not going against type here.
Just more redneck, that's all. Yeah. So basically, the whole thing that this movie does, it kind of beats you over the head that war is hell, and and we know that already. And it shows how war changes a person. Sort of. But the problem is with this movie is that they never really show you who these people are to begin with.
Yeah, you have no backstory. No development of a backstory, or even where they want to go.
Right.
You get the semblance in parts of what some of them may have been like.
Right.
But all in all, it does a poor job of that.
Right.
And that's its big detriment here, because you don't care about these guys.
Yeah, you really don't. And the action is fantastic. The tank warfare is really, really cool.
They way too many shots of for me, way too many shots of the gun of the tank that actually says Fury.
Yeah.
It's all like every 5 minutes they make sure it's on the screen, like, we get it. It's the name of the tank. We got it.
But yeah, the combat's really cool. The old Atari 2600 game. And the actors do pretty well with what they're given. Brad Pitt's really, really good in this.
He is. But sidebar, I'm almost more entertained by the game combat. Almost. Brad Pitt's awesome. He does a really good job. There is some semblance of his character from Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds.
A little bit. Yeah.
He's not quite as
over the top.
Oh yeah, right. But there is a layer of that.
Yeah.
Here. But he's really good.
Yeah. Shia LaBeouf's good. Bernthal's okay, I guess. I mean,
he's pretty one note, except for this one scene that, because they don't have anything that leads to anything, it just feels out of place.
Yeah, it did.
It's like,
they try to humanize him a little bit.
It's like
Bernthal's character feels like that he needed the war, because if he didn't, he would be murdering people back home.
he is one of those people, and I'm a little controversial in this, and that he's one of those people that, just because you're a soldier doesn't mean you deserve respect, and that's kind of how I feel about it. I'll give you respect because you deserve respect, but this is a guy who would be doing bad things if he were not in the war, and now all of a sudden he's just given a chance to go kill people. Right. So he's a hero for it.
And Michael Pena, he's always good as Gordo. His best scene, I guess, was when he's dressed like a pimp, basically. But Logan Lerman is good, but I felt that his transformation was too quick. I mean, he was with these guys for 3 days, and all of a sudden he's like, that's what it felt like.
I kind of disagree with you on that, because, and what do I really know?
Right.
But I would conjecture that you've got to dive into this quick. If you're, it's just like if one of these guys, it's just like Brad Pitt's character, who maybe had never killed someone,
right?
But, you come into war within a couple of days,
right? That's true. That's true.
And it wasn't like he's doing crazy ass badass hand to hand combat. He's in a big steel tank,
right?
Just shooting a gun, which can kind of possibly distance yourself from what you're really doing.
I also didn't buy his tough guy talk that he's like,
you're
fucking nuts.
Yeah.
You're the kid from Perks of Being a Wallflower.
But I was more okay with it than you were, because I think I get that you got to jump into once you make that decision, you got to go with it.
The other thing I wasn't too cool with in this movie was doesn't anybody follow orders? I mean, this is
not in this unit.
Yeah, this is this movie is very, even though it's a World War II movie, it's very post-Vietnam. You know, where like, you know, when he tells him when War Daddy
we're
tells
free
him,
thinkers.
yeah, when War Daddy tells Norman to kill that Nazi guy, and he's like, no, I won't do it. It's like, dude, this is like 1945. Like soldiers followed orders, you know, and stuff like that. You know, it wasn't like I said, like post Vietnam.
Not even that, but even when even the probably what I'd say is one of the better scenes in the movie when they're
in that house.
He and Norman are in the house.
Right. And he tells them to leave, and
he tells them to leave, and the three of them just sit there and like, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So that didn't ring true for me for the time.
I'm with you.
It's like I said. The other thing is, they send them on this mission that doesn't really have any real clear objective, and they're just like, go help these guys.
I'd call it a generic objective from the audience standpoint.
Right.
We're going to take the next town.
Right.
And they have a fleet of 3 or 4 tanks.
Right.
That inevitably get demolished by the greater tanks that the Germans have. Yeah. And this is the last remaining tank in the battalion with these guys. Right. As the last remaining remnants of the unit, and you know the culmination comes with them in this standoff scene between hundreds of SS German soldiers and just their tank, which is broken down, by the way, can't move, and that's kind of the crux of the story, which. Unfortunately, this is a 2-hour and 20-minute movie, basically, and it takes about an hour 45 to get there. And that's an hour 45 of minimal character development. And that's.
It wasn't. I was immediately reminded of Saving Private Ryan, which is almost like the exact opposite. Of this
it begs to be compared.
I mean, because you've got Lerman's character who's basically Upham from from Saving Private Ryan, and then
Brad Pitt as.
Yeah, but
Tom, I mean,
but on the complete other end of the spectrum from Captain Miller.
He is well versed in violence, whereas Captain Miller was much more sentimental. Captain.
But the best part of some of the best parts of Saving Private Ryan were the quiet moments where you got to learn about the soldiers back home, and they had the whole running subplot where they were trying to figure out
who Captain Miller
was. So. And you get none of that in Fury, and it was kind of.
Although I did lean to you about halfway through and go like, they're going to say that Brad Pitt's character is a school teacher.
Yeah, but so it was kind of there's a lot to like in Fury, but for me ultimately it was a disappointment.
Yeah, and unfortunately I think it falls on Ayer's shoulders.
He's the writer and director.
Was fine.
He's the writing
Ayer
director,
wrote and directed this. I think the problem here is in the writing.
Yeah,
the story is just. One note, which might be fine if it were an hour and a half movie,
right?
Even, but you have a 2-hour 20-minute movie, you need some more development of everything.
Really.
This, it's not a terrible movie.
No.
But it's just I don't think it's really worth the time and $10 that one might pay in the theater.
Yeah, it was kind of disappointment. But
you were really looking forward to it.
I was really looking forward to it. Yeah, and I was really kind of disappointed. I mean, the beginning I was like, okay, and then I was just like, this is getting kind of dumb.
Yeah.
So it was kind of we've seen this before. It doesn't really do anything new with the thing. And like I said to you, I said because their objective was so. Because it's not based on a true story, and because we know that the objective in the overall scheme of things is not, with hindsight being 2020 on how the war ends, we know it's not really that big a deal. It almost would have been better if they had done like a tank warfare movie in some fictional war or something like that.
Sure. So we don't already know what the end result is going to be. Yeah, because I don't. It's not really giving too much away here.
Right.
What happens at the end, that scene I was talking about, where they're having their big standoff, is. They're not trapped at first.
Right.
They have ample time where they can say, we just need to skedaddle out of here and catch up with another unit somewhere and let them know, let them know these guys are coming and face off. But instead, for some inexplicable reason, Brad Pitt's character is just like, nope, we're standing our ground. Or actually he says, I'm standing my ground. And then, of course, they all fall in. At that point, this is when they all choose to follow direction.
I immediately regret this decision.
So they all stay back for really no reason other than pride, I guess. I mean, Well, I guess but even they have talked about how they know the war's winding down and they know that they're going to win. So it's not like we've got to hold this line or we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
So it's almost like they're just plotting their own suicide.
Yeah.
And it is a really cool scene at the very end where it pans out.
Panning
out.
You see how
much destruction has been done by this one tank. But again, in the end, I walked out of there going like, why did they do that again? Like, why didn't they just go?
Did it leave you feeling furious?
Furious. It did.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I can play that game too.
Yeah. Just not as well.
Oh,
just not as well.
Fuck you.
I don't know. That's a good thing. So while Fury's not terrible, I don't think either one of us really suggest to go run out to the theater to see it.
Right. Right.
What's next up?
Let's talk about a movie that wasn't completely terrible either, but it was more.
That glowing review.
It was more terrible than Fury, and it was also a little self-indulgent. Here Come the Judge. This is The Judge, starring Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall. And Robert Downey Jr. is a slick city slicker lawyer who comes back home to his small Indiana town, where his father is a judge, and he comes back for his mother's funeral. His father goes out, ends up hitting and killing a guy. Robert Downey Jr., after much hemming and hawing, defends him. Not by Robert Downey Jr., by Duvall.
For whatever reason, he doesn't want his son, who he knows is a
super great
defense lawyer, to defend him.
Because you don't believe in the pure law. Right. Shut up! You're gonna go to jail, man. So.
I mean, but to be fair, this is the one of the last old time characters that rests on his laurels and is all about the purity of the system.
Yeah.
So we're talking about super small town.
Yeah.
So he's basically. I don't understand how they had so many judges in the town to begin with, but he's like one of the head judges that has, for 20 plus years, has resided over everything.
Right.
Unfortunately, just the story.
It's just a mess.
It cuts out in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
It's very disjointed. Where you feel there needs to be more, there's less.
Yeah. There's way too much going on in this movie. Like
not only subplots,
way too many subplots. Like because you got Robert Downey Jr., so you got the main plot there, okay,
which is big enough.
To carry a whole movie. Exactly. He's dealing with his mother's death. He's dealing with his marriage is falling apart. He's not a good father to his daughter. He's
really not a good father to his possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was creepy. Yeah. He reconnects with an old flame who's played by Vera Farmiga.
Yeah, there's one subplot that involves that connection that they try to make really funny, but it's just actually really creepy.
It's creepy, yeah.
And when you find out the explanation, it's just creepy.
Yeah.
It's fun to make fun of outside of the movie.
Yeah.
But like in the context of the movie, you're like, ugh.
Yeah. And then he's also dealing with his brother who stayed behind.
And his other brother.
Who's very Rain Man-esque.
Yeah, mentally he's not smart Rain Man-esque. He's just developmentally challenged. But he doesn't have any kind of ability, capacity. It's not that he reasons above anybody else. He's just unfortunately, and we don't really know why. Just a birth defect, I guess.
I don't know. Yeah. We thought we knew why, but that ended up not being the case.
Which actually would have tied in quite well, but nope.
So you would think that in a movie called The Judge, that the courtroom stuff would be tight. No, it's not. It's actually the worst part of the movie. And Billy Bob Thornton, who plays the prosecutor, is completely wasted.
Completely wasted. I don't even know what he's doing there. I don't know. I I needed.
I also don't know why his character's there.
Either. I assume he was walking by the set, like to his other movie. And they're like, "Hey, we need you for a minute." He's like, "Okay,
I'll do this. I'll do this."
Yeah. Even his character, the motivation his character has is ridiculous.
It's so lame. Ridiculous. It's so lame. He is like a state prosecutor coming to try this case, and he does it because he's got like some kind of grudge against Robert Downey Jr. or something like that. It's just dumb.
And this has nothing to do about Robert Downey Jr. It's his dad.
Yeah.
And he could have. I'm sure there was any number of 100 cases before this one where he could have chosen to come against Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Well, okay, no, because I guess they talked or they they practiced in different states, I guess.
I guess so.
But in any case, it was a ridiculous kind of little plot twist, if you want to call it that. And a waste of a character and talented actor.
Yeah. It's so like, you know, we kind of got a bad feeling about this, you know, when we saw the trailers, and it felt like it was gonna be like this feel good movie, and oh yay, it's
overly sentimental.
Yeah, and we were expecting like a more like a John Grisham, you know,
before the
thriller, like, you know, legal thriller. And then I was catching up on Grace Point, and they showed like a commercial for it, and the commercial's like, I'm like fuck you,
in front of Grace Point.
I'm like fuck you, that's not that movie.
If it had been in front of, you know, some sitcom, it would have been like. But so anyway, yeah, it's unfortunate. There were several plot lines that if developed properly would have been good.
But, you know, despite all that, despite how bad like the script is, stuff like that, it's still a fairly entertaining movie because just based on the actors alone.
I honestly, and again, I didn't even care for the movie that much, but honestly, I might prefer this over Fury because at least they developed the characters.
Yeah.
You know, Robert Downey Jr. has an actual character arc.
Yeah, he does.
You know, but that's not saying that much, really.
Yeah. Vera Farmiga, I felt she was kind of wasted in this too. She feels like she's almost like too elegant to play that character that she plays.
Yeah, because she's just a bartender.
Yeah, she's got like the tattoo and stuff like that. And, like nothing about her felt right that they cast Vera Farmiga in this.
She didn't have the accent. She didn't have her look. It was just none of it was small town.
Yeah. It was weird. Leighton Meester, she was on Gone Girl, I guess. She puts in a memorable appearance in this. And Dax Shepard shows up. He's as the comic relief. He's the lawyer that Robert Duvall initially hires to defend him.
Right.
And he proceeds to fuck up the whole hearing, so that Robert Downey Jr. can come in and save the day. And at some point, he does put on the Iron Man suit. So that was a good part.
It was pretty amazing.
It was interesting how they tied it in.
To Avengers. It was crazy.
Vincent D'Onofrio shows the weight that he's putting on for Kingpin because he shows up.
Because his nipples got ripped completely off this time when he tried to hang himself from his nipples. They just ripped off.
Gross. So he plays the older brother in this. And
I think no one who listens to our podcast will get that reference.
Yeah, okay. So but as I mentioned, he's playing Kingpin in the new Daredevil TV show that's or Netflix show. Sorry, not it's on TV, it's Netflix. On the Netflix Daredevil show that's coming up next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Judge, it was just kind of a mess. It was, you know,
there are flashes of greatness in all the acting and the storyline, but they just can't pull it off. They can't tie it together, and I think you're right. Essentially, a lot of it comes down to just
too much going on.
Too much going on. Too many subplots to try to kind of all come, you know, meet at that crossroads together at the same time.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, because that's the thing is like
it's
you look
at
at
Crash type of thing where it's like
but it's not. But it's we'll talk about a movie in a second that's a lot like Crash, but except it's all different subplots from his life. You know, I mean, like The Firm which was based on a John Grisham novel, did a much better job of having all these different things going on in Tom Cruise's life, but they all have to do with what's going on in the main plot. And in this, it's really kind of all floating out there, kind of weird.
That being said, I think that there is a good percentage of an audience that will find this movie enjoyable.
On TNT,
yeah.
We know drama.
Not anymore. They know boom.
Yeah, they know boom.
Boom. I don't know if this is a boom movie. But,
no, it's totally not. It's more of a
yeah. So and this is another long one. This is over 2 hours. This is almost at that 2.5 hour mark as well.
Yeah.
You know, again, not a terrible movie, but probably. I mean, well, if you're going to rate it, probably in the C's. C plus.
I give it a C.
C plus. Yeah, I mean,
I gave Fury a C plus, but I gave that a C.
Yeah, see, so they're, you know, it's unfortunate that these two movies that could have been something really great, really fall flat in that aspect.
Yeah. I will mention that Robert Downey Jr.'s production studio was behind the Judge, so that makes it feel even a little bit more self-indulgent. let's cram as much crap into this movie as I can because I'm starring in it,
including Bon Iver, which took me completely out of the movie. There's like 2 scenes where they use Halcyon. What's the name of that song?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's a Bon Iver song. Holocene something. Yeah. I don't know. And the song is about using marijuana, if you don't know, and they're like using it as this overly sentimental song to like, go back and remember things. And I'm just laughing, going, you know what the song's about, right? Okay, have at it.
Yeah. So that's The Judge. Let's shift gears and talk about a movie that you were really looking forward to.
Yeah.
And that is Jeremy Renner in Kill the Messenger.
Left Behind. Oh, right.
In Left Behind? No.
Yes, Kill the Messenger. I've been waiting for this movie for months, ever since the initial trailer came out.
Great trailer.
The top end of the summer, which just touted this huge ensemble cast and magnificent true story.
Yeah.
And for the most part, didn't disappoint. Maybe not quite as grand as I hoped for, but still a very solid movie.
Yeah.
And the story behind this movie is Jeremy Renner who plays the lead in this movie. He plays an investigative journalist who comes across this seemingly wild story that the U.S. government and the CIA are assisting the drug trade of crack cocaine into the U.S. And this is
so they can fund the Contras.
So that they not just for no reason, right? This is the backstory is in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Ronald Reagan could not get support in Congress to go fight,
right?
And so what happened is the government and the CIA, I'm sure with Reagan's blessing at some level, he probably didn't know what they were going to do,
right?
But had were funding the Contras in Nicaragua to the freedom fighters, as they called them, to fight this war for them.
Right, and it ties all into like Iran Contra and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly right. Oliver North, the whole scandal, and what this story focuses on is that to help fund this war, the U.S. It was completely unclear, because it is unclear as to what the involvement was. Did they just look the other way? Mm-hmm. Did they actually intercede and help this drug traffic? But whatever the case, they knew about it.
Right.
And Jeremy Renner, his character Gary Webb, he actually broke the story about this, which was extremely controversial in the news world and in just the world as a whole. Unfortunately for him, he had, given that of course he's basically going up against the CIA, he couldn't find any credible witnesses when it came down to the wire. The witnesses, even he did have a lot of them recanted or changed their story, including Andy Garcia, who did a fine job playing a
imprisoned drug lord.
Yeah, a drug lord in Nicaragua, who gave Gary Webb his first kind of bite at a credible witness, to run with this story. And it's a big ensemble cast here. You have Robert Patrick. You've got, who's my favorite, Barry Pepper, who's very small, but I always love him in this movie.
Rosemary DeWitt is in it.
She's the wife.
Michael K. Williams from The Wire is in it.
Michael Sheen, that's where he's okay.
Michael Sheen is in it. Oliver Platt.
Platt does a good job as Webb's, or as
one of his editors.
His the ball. He's the boss, and the woman is the editor.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead is the editor.
She's the editor.
It's a great cast. It is definitely a solid movie. It was a good movie. I liked it. But I was left feeling just a little underwhelmed by it.
It missed some beats.
The first half is a really tight political thriller. But then what happens is that when his story breaks, whether it's because of professional embarrassment or because the other news agencies are just too close to the White House and the CIA and stuff like that. Or he becomes the story.
Or also that he really didn't have any credible proof that it happened.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certainly some of that,
right?
Because no credible news source like CBS or ABC wants to run with a story that has no accountability.
So what happens is that he becomes the story, not the drug thing. And what ends up happening is that they basically destroy his life under the glare of the national spotlight.
And they being pretty much the conglomeration of everybody.
Yeah, the media, the CIA,
his reputation in the news world gets ruined. He gets basically demoted.
He's sidelined,
the CIA basically following him all the time.
Yeah.
The story flips about halfway through from the investigative story to a personal story.
And the personal story to me was compelling, but at the same time, it seemed to jump around a lot.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell how much time was really going by.
It was the weaker part.
It was definitely the weaker part, and that's too bad because it's a tragedy. It's a real tragedy what happens, and what ended up happening later is, I think it was once the Monica Lewinsky thing kind of broke open, a couple years later after that they basically
buried the story.
No. They basically eventually it was revealed that pretty much everything he reported was true. But that's
what they used that to bury it,
right?
Because that's so what happened. What happened is the CIA and the government denies all this for a good 2 years, and then as soon as the Clinton Lewinsky scandal hits, which of course very sensationalistic and completely enthralls America, the CIA kind of under the covers is like, we did that, but no one gives a shit because the spotlight was gone now.
Yeah, the story that Webb wrote for he worked for the San Jose Mercury News, and the story he wrote was called Dark Alliance, which he eventually turned into a book. It's a very interesting story. But like I said, the first half for me was more compelling because I like political thriller type stuff like that. And I thought the trailer kind of made it seem that that's kind of what the whole thing was going to be. But it turns out that it turns into more of a character assassination drama. Yeah.
They went a little weak on the latter half of the story.
Yeah.
But still very solid story. Worth seeing, especially if you don't know anything about what happened here. It is a tragedy for our nation and a personal tragedy for the Webb family as well.
Yeah, and we've mentioned a couple movies already that were a little long. This one felt like it needed to be longer. It needed a little bit more.
It was still around that 2 hour mark, I think, but
wasn't it? I can't remember how much it was. I thought it was shorter than that.
1 hour 52.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it actually could have used more in the story to really drive home, especially in that second half.
Yeah.
Where you're, it kind of like you said, jumps from A to B, and you don't really realize how much time has passed, or some of the things that may have taken place that were really instrumental in getting this character to a place where he's at, and how he's feeling.
Yeah. But overall, it was a good flick. Kill the Messenger is good. Everybody's really great in it. Great job by everybody involved. Renner gives one of the best performances I've seen him give.
He's super good.
And Rosemary DeWitt, who we're going to talk about again in a minute here, she's really good in it as his wife. Just a really, really good job by everybody. They just needed that second half to be just a little bit tighter, but it was good movie. Check it out. If you
don't kill Michael Custa, the director.
Right, that's right.
Because
he's the messenger.
He's the messenger.
I get it, yeah. That was weak. That was weak. So check that out. Check out Kill the Messenger if it's in your area, playing in your area. I know it's kind of, I think, in limited release. So we mentioned, you mentioned with the Judge, you mentioned Crash. And the next movie that we saw is very Crash-like because it really is a bunch of characters all intersecting all over the place. And this is director Jason Reitman's Men, Women, and Children, which is based on a novel by an author named Chad. What's his name? Chad Coltkin. I read up on that guy a little bit, and he writes a lot of edgy stuff. Apparently,
okay,
makes sense, but not really. Like some of the reviews I read about, from Publishers Weekly and stuff like that, he's really not that respected as an author.
So not necessarily good edgy.
Yeah, so
just edgy.
Yeah, edgy for edgy's sake. Yeah. And this one is
this absolutely takes cues from Crash.
Oh, it does. Yeah. And this one is, first of all, the book I think was set in junior high, which is even grosser than what happens in this book.
The movie is actually in this movie. School. I'm pretty sure, likely, if Reitman didn't make that decision, the producers came in and said, we need to change this up a little bit.
Basically, what this movie is about how technology has affected our lives, like cell phones and internet and all that kind of stuff. And
specifically our teens.
Yes, specifically teens, and really its focus is a lot on the sex lives of individuals and how the technology has affected that. And there's a ton of characters in this movie. Some are a little bit underserved. Some of them probably shouldn't even have been in it at all.
Yeah.
But the main characters, there's the Truby family, who is headed up by Father Don, played by Adam Sandler, of all people.
Who, by the way, puts in a very solid
Does a great job. The wife is Helen, played by Rosemary DeWitt, who we just talked about in Kill the Messenger. And they've been married for a while, and they're having a lull, we'll say, in their sex life.
Right.
Don goes on the internet and yanks it to porn, and
in his son's room
because his computer's too slow. So
because he's been watching too much porn on it, it's completely infected with malware.
Right. And
which we learned through Emma Thompson, who narrates throughout the story.
Yes,
she's awesome.
Yeah, Emma Thompson's really good as a narrator. There's a lot of funny moments in this movie.
To me, the movie, one of the injustices of this movie, okay, that's a little harsher word,
right.
Is the movie is underserved because of they take you in and out of that narration really erratically, when they choose to do it, when they choose to add it in. Like, you forget she's narrating part of it, and all of a sudden you hear her again. But she's great, and I think the movie would have been better had she been more intertwined.
Yeah, you're probably right. Their son Chris, and this I didn't really buy into. He's 15, and apparently has watched so much online porn that he basically can't get it up for normal stuff.
He's got very special fetishes that obviously were fed into due to the internet's sensationalistic view of sex.
And you have to, I can understand that happening for somebody maybe twice his age, but 15.
I mean, he would have been doing this for 3 years tops. I mean, it was a stretch.
It was a stretch.
But who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So the idea is, like you mentioned, he can't even have a normal erotic fantasy of just a high school girl.
Right.
He just can't get up. He needs something crazy, specific, fetish wise to help. To hitch his pony to, I guess.
And he don't say that because I'm sure that's where they were going at some point. But anyway, so he does have kind of sort of a girlfriend in a cheerleader named Hannah.
I think no. I think for her it was more
just about using him.
It was more using him and just playful.
Right.
For him, he saw it as more of a serious thing.
Right. Yeah. But she is living a very disturbing life. She has her own modeling website, complete with risque photos. And let's talk about who set up the website and takes pictures.
Who did set up?
Her mother,
wow.
Played by Judy Greer.
Yeah,
and it's very creepy, very weird, very creepy.
Now we're not talking about nude photographs.
No, but it's like lingerie,
barely clad.
Maxim shots.
Yeah,
Maxim type shots.
That you can't. It's hard to fathom that a mother would.
You'd be cool with that.
No, well, even if you're going to be cool with it, to actually do it.
Right, yeah.
I mean, she's implicit in actually the act.
Yeah, itself. She takes the pictures.
Yeah. I mean, it is her idea.
Yeah, because she's a failed wannabe actress, and now she wants her daughter to be an actress.
Yeah, so what happens is at some point someone told her, "Hey, you ought to, sell pictures of your daughter," something to that effect.
Something like that. Yeah.
And she's like, okay. So she basically starts it as a business and an online paid service for her daughter's pictures.
It's so funny, but this is a sidebar, but this is hilarious because I recently finally picked up the South Park video game Stick of Truth.
Yeah.
And it is 100% South Park. I mean, they go to places like that are really
South
Parky. Yeah. And there is this part where you have to go get a passport photo, and of course the guy who's in the passport in the photo place is a pedophile. And he's like, yeah, maybe lose your shirt. Yeah, maybe take off your pants. And then you find out that the real photo guy, he beat him up and stuck him in the closet. He's like, you get out of here, you freak, get out of here. He's like, oh. Nice. So
still not as creepy.
Still not as creepy as this. Then meanwhile, while that's going on with that family and those two families, then you have the Tim Mooney, who's played by Ansel Elgort, who is now with his third. Well, this isn't really like a young adult movie because it's rated R, but he is continuing from Fault in Our Stars.
He's really playing in type.
Yeah, he's really playing in type as like the high school guy, and he is a football player who's quit the team in the wake of his mother walking out on the family. His father's played by Dean Norris.
Dean Norris, who actually I appreciated this character in the story.
Yeah, he did a good job. And Tim has also started playing kind of like a League of Legends type video game on his computer.
Right.
Kind of like World of Warcraft. If you're not familiar with League of Legends,
it's a huge online world where you play online with different people, multiplayer, in this grand universe.
Right.
And he's really into it.
He's really good at it, and he also has started.
But not only that, it also gives him an outlet.
Right.
It's his outlet to talk about his problems.
Right.
And he was like the
star running back.
I had a slight problem with him being cast as that. Mm-hmm. It didn't quite ring true to me. But in any case, yes, his character is a star running back in Texas at a Texas high school.
Right.
Football's huge, right?
Yeah.
But he decides to quit because he doesn't feel it. He doesn't want to play football. Of course, gets a lot of backlash from everybody,
right?
Fans and the school system, and who there's one even small scene where they talk about, can we help your school workload? Maybe we can just take away homework. That was depressing. Well, what I appreciated is that they didn't give Dean Norris the cliche role, at least up front, of forcing his son to do something he didn't want to do.
Right.
He kind of gives his son some room to grow because he knows he's going through some family things. They're going through a divorce. He's going through a divorce, so his mother has run away with someone and has left them. So Dean Norris gives his son to breathe. There's a scene towards the end of the movie where he does kind of become cliche, but it's kind of more in the heat of the moment. It doesn't quite feel right, but I give it a pass because he's more going after the mom than he is the son.
Yeah, I guess. But the thing for me was that I like the fact that he was kind of like because he went to this meeting to find out more about like the internet and all this kind of stuff,
which was great, by the way, because I originally thought, was he going to this meeting to meet women?
No. But he went there to try and learn more about the game that his son was playing and all this stuff, and I thought that was cool. And then there was a part where he goes into the son's room, and then he finds stuff out about the mother. The mother's getting remarried and all this stuff, but he sees the game, and I almost wanted Elgort to come back into the room and have his father playing the game and be like, hey, "It's really awesome."
That's where I thought they were going to go.
But then they revert back to the typical. Yeah. I don't want your life.
It could have been done better, sure, but I give that little teeny scene to pass. But I agree with you. I thought that might be where they were going to go too, because I'd already referenced earlier in the movie via Emma Thompson that these two have nothing to talk about but football.
Right, exactly.
That's how they could communicate.
So he was trying to communicate with him. But anyway,
the best scene though is when Dean Norris eventually starts dating Judy Greer's character. And then when he finds out what she's doing, he's like, maybe we should just slow this down for a little while. That was pretty fun.
Meanwhile, while Tim Mooney's dealing with all this stuff, he's also starting to see a girl named Brandy Beltmire, who is played by Caitlin Dever, who was in Short Term 12.
She's really good.
Yeah, she's really good in this. And her mother is Patricia, played by Jennifer Garner.
Psycho!
Who might just win some awards for Villain of the Year in the movies. She basically...
She's that understated villain.
Yeah, but she is like a Nazi with Brandy's internet usage, her phone usage,
not internet,
all this stuff.
Everything. Controlling her life.
He's basically controlling her life, telling her who she can't be friends, who she can't be friends with on Facebook and stuff like that.
I mean, she's basically mirror is a bad word, but it is. She's mirrored her phone, so any text message Brandy gets, she gets, and then she'll delete that message so Brandy can't even read it. I mean, cuckoo for cuckoo.
Yeah,
she prints out every day. She prints out every bit of internet usage that Brandy uses and reads them at night.
I mean, she reminded me a lot of like a Sarah Palin type character. She does some things towards the end of this movie that are unconscionable, and it's really. I mean, she is like a super villain.
To be fair, I still don't. It's ridiculous,
right?
In the grasp of the movie context itself, she didn't know how deep in some of
but still,
she couldn't necessarily foresee.
Right.
What might come out of what she did, but it's still unbelievably ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it's so
like
wrong.
How do you expect your child to grow up if you don't give them room to make mistakes or make their own decisions?
Right. And while all that's going on, that's all tied up together. There's another cheerleader, Allison Doss, who's played by Elena Kampouris, and she basically visits websites that enable her anorexia, which is disgusting. And
you get the feeling, or you're given a backstory that a summer or two ago she was overweight,
right?
And so to fit in with society, she basically becomes anorexic.
And she's also obsessed with losing her V card to this popular kid,
Jock.
Yeah, this popular kid at the school.
Actually, he wasn't a jock.
He wasn't. He wasn't. Remember, I thought he was on the team. He wasn't on the team.
That's right.
But anyway, so the problem with this movie is that there's a lot of stuff to like in this movie. There's a lot of funny parts in it, surprisingly, considering it's so. Oh, and we didn't even get into the Adam Sandler thing. What's going on with them?
Oh yeah.
Basically, his wife goes to what is that site called? Ashley something or other.
Yeah,
it's like an affair site.
Have an affair. Basically.
Have an affair site. She goes there, and he starts looking up escorts online, and hilarity ensues.
It's unfortunately, this is the biggest cliche in this movie, whereas you have this couple who's having trouble with the marriage, and look, they both decide to have an affair at the exact same time.
Right.
But it is fun. It is funny. Not in the grand scheme of
especially with who she hooks up with.
Yes.
She was in good hands, as you said.
That's it. She was in good hands. Line of the movie. Right
it was, yeah. So, so there's a lot of great things to like about this movie. The problem is it's very, very heavy-handed. There's subtlety does not exist in this movie, and that was disappointing. Because
it's as heavy-handed as, say, the movie Kids back in '97, whenever that early '90s, whenever that movie came
95,
out.
96, I think.
The thing with Kids though is it focused on just these kids and this one storyline,
right?
Whereas this is
all
coming out from all over the place,
right? And the other problem is I think they may have been able to fix that stuff. The problem is this movie is too short. It clocks in at just under 2 hours, and I compared it a lot to. You said Crash and stuff like that. I compared it a lot to P.T. Anderson's Magnolia.
Yes,
which clocks
again,
in
same idea.
Which clocks in at over 3 hours, which is what you need to give all these different characters the right amount of time they need to have these stories develop.
I'm not a proponent of a 3-hour movie, but if you're gonna have such a detailed story with this huge amount of narrative and cast, you got to let it breathe.
Yeah, you do. And that was the problem I had
or
with
just
the movie.
Cut out some of the subplots.
Or cut out some of the subplots, like the Allison thing. I understand why they wanted it in there, and you get to see her father's played by J.K. Simmons, who is a regular in the Jason Reitman films.
Right. But her inevitably
her story is barely connected at all. It's barely connected at all to any of the other stuff that's going on,
and it has no cathartic moment in the end.
No,
it drops off.
Not really.
Drops off.
Not really. Yeah. But so it was a decent film. It was better, I felt, than Reitman's last effort, which was Labor Day, which was a complete mess.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And this was
just better.
Just better. Yeah, you're right. But there's a lot to like in this film. It was nice to see Adam Sandler do something different for a change, as opposed to his Happy Madison crap that he turns out constantly.
For those who think that Adam Sandler is a one-note actor, you give him something to act with, he can do it.
Yeah.
You forget this is even Adam Sandler on the screen, which I think is probably why they give him the beard. To make him less recognizable.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate this movie because it gives like Caitlin Dever a reason to get back on the screen after short term 12.
Yeah, but she's also on. I think she's also on Tim Allen's TV show too.
Oh.
Last Man Standing. I think she's on that show too.
Well, but this actually gets to show her range as an actor.
Right. Yeah.
Actor.
What you mean? A Tim Allen show won't?
That's what I'm saying.
What are you saying?
That's what I'm.
What?
I'm not.
That's insane.
I haven't. Let's say I haven't seen the show, but I have a good idea of what probably takes place in the show. But Caitlin Devers is an extremely good actor.
Yeah, she's really
actor, good. And she deserves recognition. Yeah. I think she's gonna.
Elgort's good too. I like him too. He's good.
Unfortunately,
he could get pigeonholed.
That's the thing. He's already done 3-year-olds back to back to back. Essentially the same character.
Divergent was a little of a stretch because it's sci-fi.
That was a little bit of a divergence.
But it was creepy that he played Shailene Woodley played her brother, played her brother, and then her lover,
and then in
Fault in Our Stars played her boyfriend. So that was kind of creepy. You might as well just gotten Shailene Woodley to play Deaver's part in this too. It's all the way.
Yeah. I mean, they even had a moment in this where they're like staring up at the stars. Like laying down, staring up at the stars. And I looked at Doug and I said, "There's no fault in these stars."
But ultimately, it's a decent movie. It's not great. It's not as great as Reitman's best movies. But
he's done leaps and bounds better.
It's a step in the right direction.
Up in the Air and
Juno and Thank You for Smoking.
Oh, thank you. I always forget that for some reason, and that's actually my favorite one. But I always forget it. That's a wonderful.
That's also the source material too, because Thank You for Smoking is written by Christopher Buckley, who's a great author.
Of course.
That's great.
But so this one, I see why he made it.
Right.
It is an intriguing story. It's just there's so much going on.
Right.
In such little time to tell all this story. You should have cut it back to one or two of these storylines,
or expanded the running time. Or
expanded. It's hard to justify a 3-hour movie.
Right.
Even these days.
Yeah.
You didn't need all this to hammer home the idea of the story.
Right. So just before we finish up here, let's quickly discuss 2 movies that we saw separately. Meaning you didn't see the movie I saw. I didn't see the movie you saw. Dracula Untold came out the same weekend as The Judge. I basically call it Man of Steel Untold.
Shockingly, this wasn't the one I saw.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was basically they paint Dracula as a superhero.
Ridiculous. I hate it already.
It is ridiculous because what people forget is that Dracula in the original Dracula is the bad guy. He's the monster.
I'm okay with him being a supervillain, maybe.
Right.
I mean, give him the powers. But
right.
He's the antagonist of a movie.
Right.
Not
no, in this he's supposed to be the hero, and it's pretty stupid. This movie had some good action in it and stuff like that, but it just got dumber and dumber and dumber as it went. The best part about the movie is Charles Dance, who plays the master vampire who turns him.
Okay.
But overall, you've seen this movie before. He's part Spider-Man / Superman. He's part King Leonidas from 300, and he's part Anakin Skywalker from the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah.
It's just it's a total mess, and this is supposed to be the start of Universal's reboot of their monster universe.
Monsterverse, yeah.
And I can't wait to see what they do with Frankenstein.
Mummy, I mean, it's an odd group of characters to try to do the
unless you're remaking
the
Monster
superhero
Squad.
thing too. You can't. It doesn't. Yeah. The storylines don't really fit into place unless they're gonna make Monster Squad.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So Dracula Untold is not worth your time at all. Anybody, don't go see it. It's garbage.
I mean, I didn't expect it to be great, but I at least hope that they would at some point follow the storyline of Dracula.
Let's put it this way. I know that silver is one of his weaknesses. What I did not know is that silver is basically kryptonite, where he walks into a room full of silver coins and he's just like, "Oh, I'm getting weaker." Yeah. It's like, silver's not radioactive.
I can't even forgive something like that if they just make him the antagonist.
Yeah,
it's
but
Dracula,
he's not.
for God's sake.
He's not. I mean, he is 100% the anti-hero.
I mean, I still have to see the movie because
you don't have to see
I love horror and
you know, it's not. It's the furthest thing from horror.
Yeah, well.
All right.
That's too bad. So you're saying to check out Dracula.
You should totally leave that one behind.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yes.
Which is the movie I saw.
I don't even know why.
Purely for laughs. Me and my friend Jen let's go have some laughs. This movie, we're talking about a movie that is certified 2% on Rotten Tomatoes. Probably, there's no way I've seen a movie that's reviewed worse than this movie in the theater.
Funny side note, when I was at Dracula Untold, which was a free screening, there were people standing next to me in line, they saw the poster for Left Behind, this looks good, I really want to see this.
Doesn't surprise me. America today. Okay, so Left Behind, this is the first in a trilogy, or if not more.
Oh no! There's 7 or 9 of them.
Okay, so it's a book series.
I worked at Barnes and Noble when this got real big. When this got real big,
so it's a book series. The original movies were they had 3 of them.
Right. Yeah. But Kirk Cameron.
Kirk Cameron originally made these movies and starred in these movies. This is a remake of that, and the story follows the biblical rapture, which. There is no biblical rapture. That's mentioned nowhere in the Bible that there is a rapture or God taking people back up into heaven in this manner. Nowhere. So first of all, it comes out of nowhere. But so this is the story of the day that happens. So millions of people around the world are completely vanished, disappeared.
Right.
And it stars Nick Cage.
Yeah.
You say yeah. Wait till you hear his name. Captain Ray Steele. Like he's a superhero motherfucker. Captain Ray Steele. Who, it's funny because he's the focus of this movie.
Right.
The focus, I believe, of the original story and the original movie is of the investigative journalist who, I can't even remember who plays him in this. Who cares? Kirk Cameron played him in the original.
Right.
And so this is a story that focuses on his family. He's got a daughter and a wife. A wife who has of the past 2 years become devoutly religious to the point where in her home it shows she has a little prayer station.
Oh my god!
You know one of those.
Yeah.
And because of this, their marriage has kind of grown apart. They've grown apart because she's got so religious, and her husband.
She's leaving him behind.
Yeah. And no, she's trying to pull him in.
He's leaving her behind.
Yeah. And the daughter doesn't understand where she's coming from. There's also they had a son. And Nicolas Cage is on the verge of cheating on his wife.
Nice.
And so in the midst of all this, the wife and the son get pulled up. Oh. They're saved. But that leaves behind the daughter and the dad who plays the daughter? Who's on a plane.
Who plays the daughter? It was somebody that I know. I forget who it was though.
Let's find. The mother was Leah Thompson.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. The mother's Leah Thompson. The daughter is Cassie Thompson.
Oh, I thought she was playing somebody else.
No.
There's somebody else who's in it. There's another girl that's in it. Is America Ferrara in this or something like that? Or
no.
Oh, Jordan Sparks. That's who it is. Yeah. Jordan Sparks.
Right.
That's who it is.
She's barely in. She's a super.
I just knew there was another name that I recognized.
Jordan Sparks of American Idol fame.
Yeah, I just remember there was another name.
Yeah, she plays one of the passengers on
Ray Steele's plane.
Ray Steele's plane, who he's courageously got to get back to ground. He's flying an international flight to Paris and going to turn around. Anyway, who gives a shit? This movie sucked. It was fun to laugh at, though. I tell you what, we talk about being beat over the head with the Bible.
Oh my God.
That's what this is. That's what this is. It's always what it was going to be.
Right.
That's its intention.
Right.
Is to really, really beat you over the head with the Bible story. This is a super evangelical movie.
Right. Yeah.
There's no subtlety at all to it.
Why isn't Nick Cage in this movie?
I don't know. Apparently he found Jesus at some point recently, but I think he's just saying that to sell the movie. I don't
really.
I don't know that I believe that.
Interesting.
To tie back into Dracula Untold, going back and forth, there's a fun little anecdotal story that it's like it was Idris Elba is I guess was shooting a film with Nick Cage, and Nick Cage showed up on set one day real tired and just drained, and Idris Elba goes, "Hey man, you doing all right?" "Yeah man, I just spent a night in Dracula's castle in Transylvania overnight, and it was crazy weird. I recommend it." And then he just walks away. And the Idris Elba's just like, "Well, okay." So Nick Cage is still just crazy flamboyant and just out there, eccentric. And so that's a funny little story. But yeah, leave left behind you. Move forward, move ahead, and just don't worry about it unless you really want to laugh. This is a movie that begs to be riff tracked.
Oh yeah,
and that's basically what me and Jen did through the movie.
Right.
But yeah, the movie itself, of course, is terrible. Poor shit.
When Dirty A told me he saw this, I was like, "Why?
Yeah.
Why'd you go see that? Why'd you waste your money? Did you have a gift card or something?"
It was a dare. Dare, man.
Did you have a free movie ticket to Regal?
So yeah,
right.
so that's there are two movies. There
are two movies.
There are two movies. That's a stamp of approval.
So basically, the moral of episode 52 of the Hodgepodge podcast, the message is: go see Kill the Messenger. Maybe go see Men, Women, and Children. The other movies you can probably pass on.
Yeah. I'd say if you are the sentimental type, you'll enjoy The Judge.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's
and if you like just action, you'll probably enjoy Fury.
Yeah, which is actually a little less action than I thought it might have. Balls out action,
right?
But yes, so there you go. It's something for everybody.
Our next episode will include a movie that will be for everyone, and we're talking about Keanu Reeves in John Wick, which I saw the trailer for this. I was like,
kill my dog. You kill my dog.
People keep asking me if I'm back. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm back. This movie looks utterly ridiculous, and I cannot wait to see it. It's actually getting good reviews.
14 reviews on Rotten Tomato, but all positive. It's right now 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
This movie, the trailer reminds me a lot of Shoot 'Em Up, which was Clive Owen, which I love that movie.
Great movie.
That movie
is This is going to be less sensationalistic.
Probably. And we have to remember what we want to do. What we're probably going to do is we're probably going to try and track down Shoot 'Em Up and watch that.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be like a little double feature.
Yeah, and then we'll probably talk about both movies.
That's such a fun movie.
Yeah, Shoot 'Em Up's great. So yeah, that'll be the next episode. We'll probably talk about some other stuff too. Maybe some of the TV stuff we've been watching. Because next weekend is actually a pretty light movie weekend.
Not too much going on. The next weekend though.
Yeah, the next weekend there's a lot of stuff.
Shit coming out.
And then the weekend after that will be Interstellar. So we've. Me neither. I think you already have your ticket. Oh. So, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.
Later.